Test. Hey, Judd, are you there?
Good.
Which is your?
I can hear you guys now. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Hey, Ed.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Wait, I don't know why your video's not on.
Yeah, where's you got my video? Can you see my video?
Down left. Hang on, I'm on trying to do the Facebook Live thing. You see where it is?
Is it just
Yeah, I just see his picture. There we go. All right. Let's see. So how's Massachusetts today?
Kind of opening up.
Yeah.
And sunny.
That's good. Sunny's good.
Cool, sunny.
All right. So Greg's probably a few minutes away, and we should be going live on Facebook. So you have sun. That's actually good. We have rain today. So
Well, that means we get it in a day from now.
yeah.
But I don't think we're actually supposed to get rain. I mean, fortunately, it rained here forever, and then fortunately this week it's not going to be raining. So And I think the weekend's
We've
supposed
had tons of rain and flooding and that type of thing. It's,
to God, we missed that. Hopefully we got a good Memorial weekend, although I don't know how much sailing there's going to be. I mean, racing, there's not going to be any really here. But they're trying to figure out what to do this
Right.
week.
yeah. What's, hang on, I'm just trying to get organized here real quick. All right. All right, there we go. Okay. Wonder where Greg is. Oh, there he is. Sorry, I gotta admit him. So he'll be on in a second, and then we can get started. Hey, Greg. Oh, he's connecting still. There he is.
Hey guys,
Hey, how you
Hey,
doing?
Greg,
how you guys doing?
great.
Good. Just trying to make sure all this technology thing worked. We
I hear you.
struggle out here in the middle of cornfields. I don't know if it's good news or bad news, but we heard like Chicago, they like 6 o'clock at night, on they start to struggle with the internet because everyone's on trying to watch Netflix or do Zoom meetings or whatever else. So
Oh yeah,
it's definitely some different times we're learning about.
yeah,
So.
for sure. Down here, everybody's watching Tiger King.
Yeah, we don't have Netflix, so we don't watch a whole lot of TV. So I guess it's hopefully a good thing. We try to keep our kids off of that, but we'll just get going. Thanks, guys, for joining me. I think the big thing is just trying to keep sailing in front of people, and if we can give some advice of things you've done in the past and things you're going to do in the future, and kind of let people get to know you guys. I know, from my standpoint, you guys have been really easy to get to know and to ask questions and get real answers. And that's a big reason I think why you guys have been successful, but I also think it's a big reason why, the sport of sailing has been better because of you guys. So I sent you guys some notes, and there's no real thing. And, what I would like, if you want to ask each other questions, that's fair game. There's no, just keep things fun and simple. And if I get any comments from anyone else, I'll let you know. But for the most part, we've been able to just, do these talks, and some things come later, and they just stay pretty smooth. So why don't we start with Judd, and Judd, just introduce yourself. And, there might be some people that don't know you or don't know you as well as, maybe some of others, but just however you want to introduce yourself on, who Judd Smith is.
Yeah, well, I'm live in Massachusetts. Actually, married with two kids. One works with us here at the loft, Lindsay, and my other daughter, Darby's down in Florida, and she, not sure if she's watching or not, but she might not know this is on. She lives down in St. Petersburg and is married, and I don't think she's coming back unless for a short visit. She likes it down there, and clearly they do a lot of kiteboarding down there. Not going to do a lot up here. But my wife and I live up in Gloucester, and we moved there from Marblehead, for the first time just a couple of years ago. Actually, right around the time of the G70 Worlds in Marblehead. Just so happened that we found a house that we like. So, and been working here, Doyle One Design. Now we're in Salem. Been working here for since '96. But we were in Marblehead for a while. In 2005, we moved to the Salem loft, a bigger loft, and we're all under one roof, and that's made it easier to operate. And still managing, I basically kind of manage the production at One Design and, you know, design into things. And my daughter really manages the business, and that takes a lot of load off of me. So that's a huge bonus. So more, I can do the fun stuff, and she's got to do all the heavy lifting.
That's great. And how about you, Greg? I know one similarity I didn't really think of until right then is you both have pretty talented daughters that sail, and they're
Well,
both talented at other stuff than sailing too.
yeah, well, they and it's interesting. Darby and Martha have had some time sailing together. When Martha was down in Florida, she got to sail with Darby, I think, on her J24 for almost a year. And Martha was telling me last night that you and Cindy, Judd, put her up for a week in Marblehead. Then I think that might have been in 2010ish or so, something like that.
Yeah, that's
But
right. I remember I met Martha down there. She's a great girl. She's got tons of energy, and you know, we love her, and we miss her. But I do follow how she's doing. She's wonderful. Martha's got a ton of energy. She's a great person to be around.
Yeah, she has fun, but she spoke very highly of you guys and wanted me to make sure I thanked you on the air like this.
All right, good. We
So,
enjoyed having her.
And she wanted me to thank Becky for all her help. Martha just had a baby just about a year ago, and Becky's been her go-to about every other day, I think, through this whole deal. So she appreciates both you guys.
And Martha's lived and worked for us too, and
That's
kind of like Becky's little sister, and I kind of feel the same way. So
That's right. That's right. She enjoyed that time. But yeah, we're living here in Charleston, South Carolina now, and we love it. I grew up in Ohio, but moved to Annapolis and was there for almost 10 years. And I had a great time there with all the sailing friends that we made, and moved there with my wife, Joanne, who I am lucky loves sailing probably even more than I do. And we've sailed together in a whole lot of stuff. She continues to sail and does a lot of J70 sailing now. She does a lot of J22 sailing and won the Worlds. It's interesting, with one of the grads of the College of Charleston, where I worked for the last 10 years, basically. And he worked for North in my job in Annapolis, sailed the boat that we sailed back in the day, and they won the Worlds in 2018, 10 years after we did. So, but it's fun. We're really lucky. These days I'm doing a lot of coaching, and when I can, when we're allowed to, and doing a little bit of writing and a little bit of webinaring, and just enjoying life. I think I have a 15-year-old daughter as well, who is definitely cured on the social distancing, bonding with her dad for a couple months. So she's ready to hang that up, but we're enjoying things for sure.
great. So I'll just stay with Greg on this, and then we'll move kind of back and forth. And like I said, if any of you guys have a question on these types of things, just like we did, you know, definitely chime in. Greg, what was your last either sailing or coaching event that you had?
I had a great time down at the first two J70 events this winter coaching. And then I did another one in the fall. And then I sailed a lightning regatta in the fall. My wife and I crewed for my brother here in Charleston. And over the past 10 years, I haven't been able to do a lot of sailing myself just because of the jobs that I've had. But it's been fun to get into coaching a little bit these days. I'm enjoying that a bunch.
So other than the new stuff with the J70 coaching, what are your boats that you would call it? I know Lightning and J22s are big ones. What else are what you would call, like, you know, your fleets you've been active in?
Well, I grew up in the Lightning, and we still have one, but you know, I was a sailmaker for 30 some years, like Judd. That's how we met each other. And I was with North for almost 20 of those years. And I was a One Design sailmaker. So I was really lucky, no other way to put it, to be able to sail a bunch of different One Design classes. And, you know, you put that question out there, what was my favorite boat? And they're all different and neat for various reasons. But I did love the J22 because I often sailed with my daughter Martha, and of course my wife Joanne, and then this guy Jeff Iber that I sailed with for 35 years. But we sailed thistles that we loved, and the boat was cool, and the Flying Scot was like a family, class. And then there's the VX1 that we got into a little bit recently that is by far the fastest I've ever been in a sailboat, So they're all different, and the people in each class are just a little bit different, but they're all great. And so I'm going to cop out and say I really don't have a favorite, but I've been lucky to sail a bunch of them.
Yeah, you don't have to say you have a favorite, that's for sure, because, I think all of our goals is we just want people to sail in whatever they want to sail or jump around or that type of thing. Because when you switch boats, you bring things to other boats. And I think that's why it's encouraging to tell people that it's okay to switch classes every once in a while or jump on another one to crew or crew when you normally skipper, that type of thing. I think that's pretty important. Judd, what was your last events, coaching and or sailing? And then you can lead that into what are your classes?
Yeah, I coached down in Miami. So really I was coaching at Bacardi, coaching at J70 Midwinters, pretty much coaching J70s. I got to sail the Etchells Midwinters this year, kind of came together, sail with a team from Australia, and had some fun there. That was a fun regatta, so I enjoyed that. But I've been coaching pretty much Catapult, Minor Threat, and Midlife Crisis, 3 boats, and still plan to coach them. The idea was to sail the Worlds in Marina del Rey and get them ready and have those teams podium the Worlds. It's still our goal. It's just going to be a year later. So in many respects, just like Greg said, I have enjoyed the coaching. Everybody needs a certain amount of, you need a motivation to do something. I have to feel a bit of passion to do a good job of anything I do. And if I don't feel it, I'm not going to do a good job of it. It's kind of the way I was about college. So that's why I kind of stopped doing that. But I've been passionate about coaching. I've really enjoyed it, just like Greg said. And it's really a pleasure to work with these young, talented teams, with all the teams. It's really rewarding. It's challenging. Coaching's not easy. It can be a little frustrating. I'm sure Greg can relate to that, but it can be very rewarding. So, and you're right in the thick of it, and it's a friendly group of people. So I have enjoyed that, but I also enjoy when I can, sail my own boat at times. I do that more regionally, and the Etchells I got to sail this winter, and I'd like to do more Etchell sailing too. I got to fill in for Peter Duncan at one of the regattas this winter with his crew, and they were fantastic. It was a pretty turnkey program, so that was a lot of fun to do that. But in terms of my favorite boats, I agree with Greg. It's hard. I can list my 3 classes that I've worked on over the years. Primarily, Etchells, and now in the last 5-6 years, J70, and more recently than that, what else have I been sailing? I sail a little bit on the Star. I used to sail on the Star. I haven't sailed since the Springs a few years ago. I love sailing the Star. I don't know if Greg ever did that, but I'm getting a little old for it, and but I enjoy it. If I could get back in, I got myself a little better shape. I actually probably could sail the Star again, but once a J70 came on the scene, I really didn't have time for the Star. And although I make a lot of Star sails, and we have Star sails going through the shop today, we building a lot of Star sails. So I'm not sorry I got into the class in 2007. It's probably the most fun thing I ever did. So in terms of an exciting boat to sail, maybe not the fastest boat in terms of boat where I have the most passion for sailing, I think I'd have to say the Star probably falls into that category. I kind of like to do it again. I kind of miss it. I'm not as good as some of the other guys, but I learn a lot. And so I wouldn't mind maybe getting a chance to do that. It's just this has kind of been an interesting time with this COVID-19, where it's going to be kind of a stop and reset that, I'm sure Greg and Ed, you could relate to this. We've all been going so fast and so furious for so many years in a row. We really had hardly a chance to see straight. And I know I did J70 Worlds with Peter Duncan and his team in 2017, and then that rolled in right to another Worlds in 2018, and I coached in 2019. I mean, I really feel like since I've been doing the J70, none of this has really stopped. So COVID's really been the first time that we could dial back the accelerator, lay off the accelerator a little bit. And in many respects, I don't really mind that. It's been good for me. I've been able to focus on things I want to do, and get in better shape and focus on things I really didn't have time to do before. So it's been positive. But I agree with Greg that no real favorite. I must say I sailed with Curtis back in the day in the Lightning. I'm sure Greg remembers this, but that's when I met Greg down doing the Southern Circuit, and his brother Matt, an excellent Lightning sailor. I almost think Matt was sometimes faster than Greg. He put a lot more time on the Lightning. I think Matt was a very fast.
He would agree with that, Judd.
Very fast Lightning sailor, and those guys were really, really good Lightning sailors. And I learned a lot sailing against them on the Lightning. Bill Shore was strong back in the day, and there's a lot of good sailors still sailing the Lightning. Lightning's a great boat. I always enjoyed the Lightning. And there was, that was a boat that really played well, still can. That's when they had the reaches, right, Craig? So
yeah.
It's kind of too bad they gave up on that. But I thought it was very exciting. I remember sailing the Lightning back in the day, and the planing and the Lightning and those reaches was a lot of fun. Those boats get up and go. They're no slug, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So Judd, I heard, Greg mentioned Jeff Iber and his wife, and that are kind of his go-to crew. Who are your go-to crews when when you're starting a new campaign, or just even want to do a pickup regatta and go sailing?
Well, that's interesting because, even just back in 2018 Worlds, I had a great team. I was lucky to have Lucas Calabrese sailing with me, who's a fantastic young 30-year-old sailor and the, Opti world champion and 470 sailor, and Will Felder and then Mark Othier has been, those two guys that sail with me a bunch. We did several years of regattas, and hope to sail with them again. Because I started coaching, those guys have gone off and done some other things, but I still stay in touch with them and look forward to an opportunity to sail with them again. And there's a lot of other good sailors I can tap into, and Carlos Robles is an excellent sailor, and Gonzalo, I've sailed with him, and so tapping into the younger crowd. These 30-year-olds are really good. I'm sure Greg's done some of that. I'm sure you have too, Ed. This next, I don't know, maybe they're 2 or 3 generations behind us. I'm not sure. They're all my daughter's age, but really a super talented group of sailors, and certainly the other group that I'm coaching that's a little older than that. Steve Hunt and Eric and Jeff, and that team is unbelievably good, talented group of sailors. So I haven't necessarily been locked into one team because I've been mostly coaching right now, but have had an opportunity to sail with a lot of good people over the years. And the only thing is they're getting younger. Of course, my wife Cindy is a great sailor in her own right. She went to BU, sailed at BU. She sailed a lot. She used to sail with Morgan Reeser in the 420. Did a great job. I remember going to Kingston. They sailed up there, and she sailed with a lot of good people. She's a great sailor in her own right, and she can steer the J70 very well. So she likes the J70 better, and I think most women do. The Etchel's kind of a beast to sail on. It doesn't mean she couldn't do it, but a lot of hiking. The Etchel's kind of hard, and she isn't in great shape. She can go run 5 miles, probably did today, but it's just, Etchel's kind of a beast, and whereas the J70's a lot easier for some, for the girls to sail, and things don't load up as much.
Yeah, when I do bow on an Etchel's, it's a fairly physical boat.
It's a nice way of putting it. It's a workout.
Great. Let's move on. We'll go back to Greg. Greg, what were your plans this summer, up until this point that, you've had canceled, but, you're still kind of probably attached to and trying to figure out what's going to be next?
Well, I was going to do more coaching and some J70 coaching with the teams that we've been working with. That's been really fun. Planet Claire specifically, who's a ton of fun, and mentioning 30-year-olds, like you're saying, Judd, Zeke Horowitz, who went to the College of Charleston, as I mentioned earlier, is on that team. So, they're a ton of fun. But I was fortunate this winter to get the position of the IC37 class coach. And I was really excited about that because of that class and the makeup and what they're aspiring to be to, you know, offshore one design sailing. And it's pretty cool what they're working on. It's a bigger boat, of course, but they wanted to have a coach that could kind of help them drive the class more like a team rather than individuals getting specific coaching, you know. And I was really looking forward to that. That would have been a blast to first be with that group of people with those boats in Newport. And unfortunately, just like so many things, it's been canceled, I think, until maybe late August now. But we've done some webinars. We've got another one a week from Thursday, and it's a great bunch of people, very passionate. And so that was going to keep me busy. That was going to be like 8 events through the fall. Now we're just kind of waiting for things to heat up again and do a little more coaching in some of the other smaller boats. And, you know, and they've started sailing here in Charleston, which is cool. The different yacht clubs are starting their junior programs in a week and a half, which is, you know, aggressive, but I think everybody's really careful about it. And the big boats are starting to sail, and we're going to do a little lightning coaching stuff this weekend. So, you know, the leaves are coming out, the flowers are blooming, and we're going sailing.
Yeah, I think from that standpoint, it's just being careful and trying to, you know, obviously there's some hot spots in the country, and I think that's where places like Newport are a little more cautious. Even though Newport's not a hot spot, people from the hot spots go there. Right. And we're kind of in a similar situation. We started doing some Vanguard 15 racing. Basically, we invited the Chicago fleet here because their harbors are closed, and so we've kept it simple in one day, so people come and go, and they don't hang out, and try to be as simple as possible. The debriefs that we've had, the one we've had is outside, and then there'll be a follow-up Zoom like this on Wednesdays. So just trying to think outside of the box. But I think, Greg, you said you've been doing some IC37 ones, and I'm not sure are these open to anybody?
Well, it's interesting. You ask. The first one was just for the class and the charters and New York Yacht Club, but we decided this morning we're going to open it up, and because we're going to get into a little more tactics, and a lot of people sail boats that size, so it'll be now open and be publicized that way. So it'll be neat.
Yeah, that's great, because in that situation, you just other people with similar size boats can benefit. And I know one of the things that we're going to do is on the Zoom call like this, the people that were at the event will be able to be live and talking, but then anyone else will be able to watch and type in questions and that type of thing, if that makes sense. And so I think that's good. Judd, have you been doing any virtual or phone call, email? What's the best way you've been able to, work with people as they need it during this time?
I haven't done much. A little bit on the phone, an email. Still been answering them to that, but I haven't done much. A lot of these, podcasts, if you will, that have been going on. Willem invited me to do a few of them, but they're all like late at night, and I get up at I'm like a farmer. I get up early, and I'm pretty useless by 8 o'clock. So, whether I'm ready to get up or not, my dog's ready to get up. So I get up and then I go, jogging and whatnot early in the morning, and all before work. So by the time the end of the day, I'm not up for any podcast, especially if I'm on West Coast time. But this is a good time of day. And I don't know when Greg typically does it, but people are going back to work now, so it makes it difficult. But you're right. We don't have anything scheduled. Like Greg says, most of the first action that we're probably going to see, we're hoping, might be in Newport, Sail Newport. In Massachusetts, honestly, is right in the throes of opening up, like technically yesterday, and in the phase 1, and the sailing community is really trying to figure it out, trying to see what we can do and cannot do, and I'm sure they'll find a way, how formal and informal that might be, from beer can racing to weekend racing. I'm sure we're going to, there's a lot of smart people dealing with it, and they'll figure it out. Access to the water and how many people on a boat and all like this. I don't know how that's all going to play out. It's just kind of evolving, and Massachusetts has its own set of guidelines, and so really don't know how that's going to go. But I think Newport's a little ahead of us. They opened up a couple of weeks ago. They haven't had a serious problem with COVID as we have, and I'm hoping that Sail Newport in July 11th and 12th. All I know is I registered for the regatta. I haven't actually looked to see if anybody else has, but I look forward to sailing J70 at Newport. I sailed there last year, and I hope we can come back there and do it again. Marblehead Nude, we don't know if that's going to happen. We hope it is. That's end of July. And then the New York Yacht Club, like Greg referenced to, New York Yacht Club One Design Regatta is third week in September, Greg? Something August. Yeah.
August.
I want to say the 20th or 21st.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that could be a really good J70 event as well. I know we were on the IC37 line last year during Newport Regatta, and that was a lot of fun. J70 is pretty good planing downwind, and those things go planing right by us. So it was really fun, being on their course and watching their starts, and sailing the same track as them. Us and our J70s, and a big IC37 fleet. So.
Yeah, I think from what I'm hearing is, there's a lot of people canceled early, and they've tried to fill those August, September, October months. And then now that those are kind of filled, I think people are now waiting a little longer to make a decision. I just heard the Chicago to Mac race they were going to make a decision on the 15th, and now it's June 15th. So I think people are seeing some signs that things are going to happen. I have seen a lot of encouragement to not travel, not necessarily not sail. And so that's why we're doing, this Vanguard 15 series, is try to create an avenue to do, some sailing locally, but then, get the coaching involved as part of the regatta. And, that's something worth thinking of. I've also seen some people like Kristen Berry, who in Annapolis, he created a race course that's all permanent marks, and you can go out and you start your GPS, when you start the course, and then you do the whole course, and you can virtually do it. Greg, do you have any suggestions for that type of thing that makes sense, at least to get people starting to sail again and race again?
That's a pretty cool idea. Kristen's always had some pretty neat ideas like that. And, but it's funny going back, if I could, I'd go back to what Judd said about the virus, and, it's been unfortunate, but maybe the silver linings, I think, watching some of the various classes use the Zoom platform or webinars or podcasts or meetings. It's interesting how, like the Lightning class had their annual midwinter meeting that would have taken place at the Midwinter Championships. And there were more people on that call, on that meeting, than there would have been at the midwinter meeting, and everybody was engaged, and it almost felt like a social thing. And I'm sure you guys have been involved with some of the different yacht clubs that have, a Friday night, let's get together and have a cocktail and chat with one another. And it almost is like, I don't want to say a forced social engagement, but a very comfortable forced social engagement and an effective way to host meetings. It almost seems to me like we're learning a new way, maybe that might be pretty effective. But I think, to your point, Ed, ideas like what Kristen's got going would be really cool. And, people talk about, like the IC37 is talking about maybe sailing without spinnakers and doing them double-handed or with just family, which either way could have a positive. And, they'd love to sail them with the whole gang and obviously race them hard like they have in the past, but thinking outside the box gives them the opportunity to really kind of still be relevant and let the charters and the owners have fun,
Yeah. Judd, what have you heard in Marblehead or elsewhere about these types of ideas? Marblehead is another area that has marks, so go ahead.
Yeah, there's it's kind of interesting. Tomas Hornos, he's 31 or so, works here at the Loft, and he's used this time. When he got his government check, he went and bought a used laser from Jack and Drew Slattery, one of Graham's old boats, And he's had a lot of fun with that, getting that ready. So that's kind of how he's used his time. He's gone out and I've been sailing with, informally with a group of 9 boats launch, and lasers could get much more social distance than that. And so they've been doing some informal stuff. So, his reaction is, here he sails stars and everything like that. His reaction is he'd like to, whatever. He says, having just one guy go out in a boat and run races, they can do coaches races. They do a pretty effective job. I know, Greg has, I have. Ed Adams is really good at it. Morgan Reeser has run these coaches races. And I swear sometimes they're better than the actual races. Larry Suter, he does a really good job running those down in Miami. So it really doesn't take much. And, that's kind of what they're talking about here, if they can. I think it's more how many people can be on a boat, the actual managing or running the race. The Kenny Legler style, running a race out of a rib or a small power boat, that's, if nothing else, we're probably going to see a lot of that. And our clubs and our race committees are fully supporting that. They don't necessarily have to go out in the big race committee boat. They get out there and they battle hard. I know my club at Eastern, they're out there running laser races from a frostbite boat. They do, they're really running more races than they ever have in the past over the years. And I think that trend will continue. And maybe it's going to affect the social end of it, like Greg says, in terms of meeting afterwards. But I'm not going to be surprised if a 6-pack of beer or something turns up on deck this summer, that it might have not last summer, on the way in.
Yeah, and I think the reset that I'm seeing with these creative courses and the virtual sailing and things like that, it seems like they are allowing people to just have fun more. And like you said, you'll see a 6-pack on a boat more because it's not as serious, because maybe the course isn't perfect, and that's okay. And I think there was an article that Kenny Reed wrote that said perfection is ruining sailboat racing. And so if we can create just these random leg courses, and I've always liked the idea of the Strava. If you guys know what Strava is with cycling, it's basically when you go ride, like you can create a course, like the fastest to get up a hill, the fastest to ride around the lake, the fastest whatever. And then it's virtually there. So when someone shows up on their bike, it pops up and says, hey, you want to try to beat it? So if we can try to do that with like a course like that Kristen Berry wrote, I see a comment that says Rattlesnake Run in Charleston. I'm guessing that's a run, the fastest mile. And, if it's blowing 25 and you have a laser, if you can go out and just try to sail the fastest mile in a laser, things like that, I think, we all need to encourage and try to figure out, we want people just to have fun sailing. I mean, we obviously want our clients and friends to win, but but if they could win and not have fun, and then that doesn't win either. So I think, these are all things we want to try to encourage people to do. And, these Vanguard 15s are taking off here because you can buy a boat for cheap. And, I think it's the same thing like, Tomas with the laser. It's like grab a laser and, just go have fun. So I think that's good. Is there anything on that subject you guys want to chime in about?
Well, I was just going to say, Ed, you mentioned, here in Charleston and being creative. And I mentioned earlier that they're starting the junior sailing classes here, in a couple of weeks or week and a half. But it's interesting. They've kept a lot of clinics going through the winter. Carolina Yacht Club that I've been working with, which is a fun bunch. And they've been very creative in how they've attacked these things. And they've been very, strict about the social distancing, and it's only single-handed boats, and they've done it with the Optimus and the Open Bics, but they made it fun at the same time, kind of going back to what you're saying, Judd. They kept it light and fun and almost made that part of the process. Is, oh boy, we got to stay apart now, this is good. But they've had a lot of kids doing it, and it's been very successful and kept the kids, and then of course the parents have been involved as well. So, just like you said, Judd, kind of thinking outside the box and thinking of things that can kind of just keep the gang involved is important.
Yeah, well, to that end, that's the type of racing. Really, it could be one of the most fun summers because I've always enjoyed just sailing, locally at home and doing the beer can. When I'm at some of my funnest racing would just be out working all day and just going barely making the start for the beer can race with some of my friends. We're not that good, but we just try to do the best we can. And our boat handling leaves something to be desired usually, but don't get too stressed about it. But it's just a wonderful time. It's a good time. We really enjoy it. And Greg, you've been involved, and Ed, you have, and it's a little different than doing this isn't going to be a year where we're gearing up for a world championship. It's not going to be as serious. And the thing is, if you do multiple world championships a year, it gets pretty serious. It gets pretty tense, and it's more like a final exam, doing a world championship that you're taking, and it takes a lot of preparation to get in. It's something you take pretty seriously, but it's not necessarily always as much fun. So this summer we aren't going to travel as much, and in many respects that makes life a little easier. So it's going to be, hopefully we just find clever ways like you're discussing. And I know they are around here locally, and they're checking in with other areas about how to pull this off. And I know the race all the clubs want to find a way to make it happen. They're just trying to make sure they're comply with the regulations set out by the state and by the harbor master, and observe the social distancing. So that makes it a little more challenging when you got a boat like a J70 that has 4 or 5 people on it, and maybe we won't be able to sail with 4 or 5 people on a J70 this year. Maybe we're only going to be sailed with 2 people. And I put out some ideas. I said, well, there are ways we can reduce sail area. So I said, if we got to do that, I can bring a bunch of sails in the loft, and we can go hack and slash. We can add a reef. We can cut the jibs down and make the jibs smaller and still sheet on the track properly. And there's things we can do in the sail loft to depower the boats, and yet still probably fly the kite downwind. And you really could fly a kite in a J70 downwind if it didn't get too windy. The hard part's getting it up and down, and you don't want to shrimp it, but there's some clever things we could do there. Do a little early pole deploy and whatnot, but it's illegal. But we could let it slide for this. But that's it's kind of interesting we're talking about it because my wife and I talked about it. I know there's meetings every night this week about it. There's a meeting tonight in Massachusetts because it's just opened up, and they're just trying to figure out what's going to happen. And we are very curious about how other areas are doing this, or are going to do this, or how they're going to pull it off. So.
Yeah, I know Maryland just opened up, and that's obviously a big area for sailing. We've been very lucky here because no one really knows Indiana that people sail. So that means, people have been fishing forever, and it's been good. Chicago is pretty tight though until at least June 1st. And, the problem there is in Chicago is, they open up June 1st, but then they got all those boats to get out and get, in the water and that type of thing. So you're going to take another half a month to do that. So that makes it difficult. But
are they not? Sorry to interrupt. Are they not launched? I've been sailing in Chicago over the years quite a bit, but I didn't really know what the status was there.
The harbors are empty.
No
harbors are
kidding.
empty. So,
No idea.
you can't have a boat there. And from talking, Dave Gerber from Chicago Yacht Club was here coaching last weekend, and he said, the mayor just made an announcement that she's in no hurry to open the harbors. And so I don't know if that means, after June 1st, it could be into July 1st. Who knows? So it's a tough situation for them because they just have no control. It's definitely not good. So, that's why we're lucky enough to be able to put some stuff on. We're 2 hours from Chicago, so we're the Vanguard 15s. We're working with Markset Bot, so we can have, less people, keep our social distancing. We grabbed my cousin's John boat so we could have another boat. So we didn't have too many, we had 2 people on each boat, and we were far apart from each other. But that's what we're working on is with Markset Bot, because then you can set a good course without having to move. And this weekend we're going to try it with two Markset bots. So one can be, so the coach boat can be moving around more, and we can do more things to get good races off. And that's a pretty cool concept. And our idea is we get this perfected, and then we go to different clubs and whatever boats they have, and one person can kind of run everything to get good races off. But more importantly, the coaching side of things. We're doing video and drone and regular, and just photographs, and just working with an entire group, rather than a couple teams. And I think that'll help too, because when you do it that, just like Greg's working with the IC37s, and everybody gets all of the work. And so the bottom guys aren't getting lost, and so they're getting brought up as well, because they're going to need more help. But what happens is you get the right videos of the good guys, and then you show the not so good guys, this is what you need to do. And you can be out there on water. I mean, it was pretty cool. Dave Gerber, on the water, literally someone finished a race and he's like, go upwind, and so they went upwind, and he's like, try this, and that's the thing that you can do if you're going to sail with, 10 boats or, a small fleet, and get everybody better and more, and easier, and have more fun. And I think that's the goal that we all try. And so we're trying to create this concept. And we are working on a J70 series that may be kind of like a winter series, but it won't be in the winter. So hopefully we'll be able to announce that soon. It's not with us, it's us helping that program that, once we have the go ahead, we'll invite teams, because we need to, keep numbers low, and we don't know what that means. I mean, we could invite and we don't know if we invite the entire class and 10 people are going to show up, or we invite 20 people and everyone shows up, so, but the goal with that though is like this. And like when we did our J70 top 10 tips was, everyone can watch. And so we'll do the debriefs like we do in Davis Island, but live and recorded, so anyone in the world can watch it. And I think that's important for the whole sport to grow. And so hopefully we can get you guys involved, and we can even create it. So if you guys can't make it, you can still be involved this way. So I think that's good. Let's shift gears and put you guys on the spot a little bit. Judd, how many world championships have you won?
Not exactly sure. A few. It's not too much of a backward looking guy. I'm more of a looking forward. So, and a few classes. I sailed in the Etchels, but sailed a lot of worlds, had a lot of seconds. I know that, either crewing or skippering. I think that's like 10. I know the seconds more than I know the I've only had one first in the Etchels. So, and a couple in the J70 crewing and skippering. So, I sailed the Mump 30 a bit. I did 5 worlds in a row, and I think we won 2 of them. So, had a good run, but more for the most part, I don't really dwell on the past. I mostly look forward to what I can do from here forward.
Yeah.
And because I really, my way I operate is I have to be I'm very passionate about, if I got to kind of feel like it, I got to be into it. I got to be, and when I'm in, as my wife says, I'm all in. There's no like half measures. So I'm either all in or I'm not in at all. That's kind of my style. So it's whatever project I decide to take on, I just go all in and try to do the best I can with it. It doesn't really matter what that is. If that's trying to, if I was going to plant a garden or something like that, I'd be all in or not at all. That's why I don't take up golf or something, because I don't have the time for it. So if I can't do it 100%, then I'm not going to do it at all. I'll wait till maybe I have time for that later.
Yep. All right, Greg, how many world championships do you have?
Well, for me, it's a little easier to count those because I just have one.
Okay.
That was a J22 with my wife and my good buddy Jeff Iber and another close friend. And but like Judd, I like to look forward, and I like to be all in and work at it hard and be competitive. And as my life kind of evolved and I left sailmaking and became the director of the sailing program here at the College of Charleston, I wasn't able to sail much. And so I would kind of keep trying to go to regattas, and we would kind of be a little less polished and a little way less polished and then way less polished. And, eventually it got to the point where, if I'm not going to do it right, then let me do something that I really do enjoy. And that's where I got into the coaching. So that's really been fun for me. And I almost feel like in a lot of ways I've had my fun. And it was interesting to transition from, like Judd was saying, the flat out racing all the time, where you would go from regatta to regatta, regatta, which wasn't that bad of a deal to be around sailing people all the time. Matter of fact, I don't think it gets much better than that. But then to come do the college thing and really be able to see, kids, college sailors and their coaches that have so much incredible passion to lay it out there and really do well. That kind of lit me up again obviously in a way different way. So I was really lucky to kind of fade out of my own sailing and then turn that towards, the team there. So I was lucky.
All right. So what was your favorite, like what's the most fun regatta you can remember? Just it doesn't matter how you did, just you went and you had fun.
Me, Ed?
Yeah, great. Go ahead.
It would be the 2008 J22 Worlds, where we were lucky enough to win. And it was a big event, but we started off kind of rough. My wife would of course do the bow and call the line. And Jeff and I are sitting beside each other. There's a Z flag start, and she's turning around yelling at us. We are pushing it. And Jeff and I are sitting there. We got this, no problem. We can push this a little harder. And of course, we're over. Started off with a 54th in the first race. And she came back off that bow and gave us one of these and said, "Don't you listen to me from now on." And it's like, "Yes, ma'am." But anyway, we had a great time, and it was fun to go through that. Not that part for sure. And we didn't do it again, I'll tell you that. But that was a fun event for us.
Where was that?
In Rochester in
Nice.
2008. Yeah, it was fun. There were 105 boats all on one line. So when you're over, you were definitely over. It was a tough one after that.
Awesome. It's a great place to sail for sure.
Oh yeah.
Judd, what's the most fun regatta, whether it's whatever result, doesn't matter?
Well, there was a time where the sonar class was a big fleet, a big deal. And certainly New England, Rochester, New York, certainly down in the Roten, they're still going strong. And they had the North Americans here in 2010. And I sailed with my daughter, Lindsay, and then one of her friends and one of my friends, and we had a good time. We won the regatta, which is fun. It was challenging. The whole regatta was challenging. It's always challenging sailing Marblehead, but just all the way around, we weren't polished at all. We were terrible. We kind of just made it up as we went. But sailing regatta at home is always fun. So I look back, and we certainly had a lot of laughs because during that regatta, because we weren't really very good, and we were fortunate to win it. And we kind of had to will our way around the course, and we had things going wrong. But we certainly had a lot of laughs during the regatta. So you look back at those and you say, well, that was a good time. You're amongst your friends, and they're not always the best of the best, but everybody's doing the best they can, and we try to get better. And of course, they make fun of me because I'm expecting a lot out of them, and I come up with some terms that they make fun of. But I look back at some of those things. But I always enjoy sailing at home. But I can't say there's many regattas I've ever been to over the years that I haven't enjoyed one way or another. Quite a few. It was certainly a lot of fun. More from a learning, sailing on Peter Duncan's program for 2017 J70 campaign where I was doing the bow. It wasn't exactly the best bow guy in the world, but they kept inviting me back, so I kept showing up. And but that was a lot of fun sailing with Willem and Victor and Peter, and we certainly had a lot of laughs. That summer campaigning.
So where's your favorite location other than home to sail?
Well, that's a good question. There are a lot of nice places in the U.S. To sail. Always like Newport. It's a beautiful place to sail. So rarely is a bad time or a bad place. Whether you're sailing inside at Newport, you have that ability, or sail outside at Newport. San Francisco, beautiful place to sail. Whether it's on the city front, I mean, doing the Rolex Big Boat Series, where you kind of do the tour of the bay. It's probably one of the funnest races you could do. Did it in the J70. We're doing the 2016 Worlds kind of lead up to that. We did some of those tour of the bay races. And I don't know how long the races are. They seem really long. It was a long time upwind and very short time downwind. So you go all the way from the bridge all the way back down to Richmond. What a great place to sail. I mean, it's kind of rough in a J70 when you're wind against tide going up by Alcatraz, but exciting. I would do that regatta anytime I could. Really exciting place to sail, and really exciting place to sail at J70. I don't know if I necessarily love to sail in Etchells there, but I have. But J70 is perfect for there because it's a planing boat. San Diego is obviously a beautiful place to sail, inside and outside. Love sailing in San Diego. Done a lot of racing in San Diego. We did the 2015 J70 NAs there, sailed with Gollison in the Etchells NAs out there in the Worlds, and look forward to getting back to San Diego. That's where Willem Van Way's from. A lot of my friends are out there. So that's a wonderful spot. Obviously, in as far as Texas, sailed in Houston, enjoy sailing in Galveston Bay. Great spot. And Lakewood Yacht Club, nice spot. Like to go there anytime. A lot of great people, glad memories down there. Annapolis, haven't been to Annapolis, hoping to go down for the nude, but I guess we'll get a chance later on. But Annapolis in the fall, I've sailed a lot of big regattas there. I remember doing a Mum 30 Worlds there in November. It was a fantastic regatta. I sailed with John Podmajersky, and it was a lot of fun. And used to sail with Dave Curtis and the Soling down there. And I'd always be serving oysters at Severn Sailing. I did that a lot of years back in the day. So that was always good fun. We stayed with Stuart Walker, and those are many years ago, but I do remember sailing with David and Joanne and myself, and we'd do that trip a lot. Going down the coast, Charleston, just where Greg's from, that's a great harbor. That's a fun event to do, doing Charleston Race Week inside the harbor. I kind of wish we could go over and sail on the Melges 24 course. I think that's a little better part of the harbor. Greg probably has something to say about that. But, where the J70 sail is fine. It's really challenging. So every time I've got to do that regatta, I like it. And I look forward to, we got to sail with Pamela Rose last year, Lucas and myself and Eric, and we had a great time. And where else? Obviously, Florida. I haven't sailed all the places in Florida. Primarily Miami is where the One Design is. And, Davis Island in Tampa is nice. And of course, St. Pete. I enjoy St. Pete. My daughter lives there. So whenever we get a chance to sail down there, we get to not only visit, my daughter and son-in-law, but also, sometimes we get to sail in between. So there really aren't any places. Chicago, I sail in Chicago a lot. I don't want to leave Chicago out in Detroit. And there's a lot of great areas. I've been up to doing clinics up in Burlington, Vermont and Portland, Maine. And, there's a lot of nice sailing areas. Nantucket, do a lot of sailing out there. So I can't say there's any one favorite place. Long Island Sound, I know a lot of people don't like Long Island Sound. It's not always a lot of wind, but it's actually a lot of times there's a lot of wind. I went down and sailed in Long Island last fall in my J70 in October. And I think it was some regatta. We didn't win it. We were second, but a lot of good sailors showed up. I don't even remember what the regatta was. Might have been East Coast or something. And we had a ton of fun. The Long Island Sound in the fall is a challenging place to sail. But in the spring and the fall, whether it's the AYC Spring Series or Manhattan Fall Series, or whether it's, some special one-off regatta, I like sailing down there. I always like visiting American Yacht Club, Larchmont Yacht Club, all beautiful venues. And so I wouldn't rule out Shelter Island, New York, wonderful place out there in Gardner Bay. I'd go sail there anytime. They got the North American scheduled. Hopefully those happen this year. And of course, Canada. We like Canada too. Hamilton. I did a Star NAs up in Hamilton, Rochester, New York, Kingston, Toronto, Seneca, Lake Seneca. I mean, it just goes on and on. How many nice places we've all sailed. Buffalo, Cleveland, sailed Cleveland. Actually, I coached in Cleveland, I think. And I just think all these venues, we really have a lot of nice places to go to and travel and race. And I've yet to be the one that I don't like. I think they all have their own unique qualities and their own unique challenges. And the nice thing about our sport is it's never the same. No 2 days are the same. They're not the same. Where I sail in Marblehead, I've been doing this for, I'm 63 now. I've been sailing in Marblehead for over 50 years. I still haven't figured out. There are new two days that are the same. I've never been any of the, whether it's to Houston or down in the Chesapeake or to Miami, where I haven't figured out that place. And I haven't been to San Diego and figured out that. I haven't figured out San Francisco. I haven't figured out any of these places. You just go do the best you can, and you learn from, what you've been there before and try to go fast. But so I've yet to find one that I don't like. I haven't got to sail up in Washington. I sailed in Bellingham once. And I guess I went to Vancouver and sailed a Star Regatta up in Vancouver, and that was a beautiful spot. So we've been very fortunate, like Greg says, I've been very fortunate over the years to sail in a lot of neat places. I haven't sailed in Harbor Springs myself. I've sailed on Gull Lake in Michigan. I thought that was wonderful. So, when I think about it, and, just thinking out loud, there's a lot of places I've been, and a lot of places I think I really want to get back to. So I'm glad I'm kind of getting myself in better shape. And so when things begin to open up and we get to travel again, I can get back to some of these places. Austin and Texas, got to do a clinic down there, and like to visit there and go sail regatta there again. So I don't mind. The one thing we can say about COVID-19 is it brought the price of fuel down. So I'm trying to think the last time they were under the gas prices, fuel prices are under $2 a gallon, and it was a while ago. Does anybody remember when? It's been a while. I mean, I remember not too long ago it was $4 a gallon. So it's going to make it a lot cheaper to travel when we can travel. And I love the road trips and the car. I just soon go. I don't need to get an airplane. If I never get an airplane again, it's okay with me. But I guess it's part of our lives. But if I could just get my car and go, I'd go to regattas. I could do that a lot. I could do that every other weekend. I like the road shows. They're a lot of fun.
We'll definitely have to get you on Lake Max at some point. We have scows here, ski scows and MCs, and we always throw the J70 out there every once in a while and have fun. Greg, being a Midwestern guy, I'm sure he hasn't been here either, but we'll have to get him here too. But Greg, what are some other places, for you to go sailing that you've been able to do? Sailing, obviously, some more inland lake boats. You may have some different ones. We know there's a lot of treasures in this country, as Judd mentioned. But
Yeah.
What are some of yours, Greg?
Well, I think first I want to say Judd should put together a book of all the places you've been and what you've learned, and I'll be your first customer.
All right.
Yeah.
It'd be a big fat book too. But one place, Judd mentioned it, is the Buffalo Canoe Club, which is a great spot for sailing lightnings for sure. Everybody loves that. And I got to say, being an Ohio boy that sailed on a dinky little lake there, to come to Charleston where the water's moving around at 2 to 3 knots was quite a thrill to kind of learn more about that. So, but I do love it here. And a lot of the places that Judd mentioned have been really fun. But there's a spot I want to mention that I was able to go to last summer, and then kind of, maybe if you don't mind, I'd just do a shout out for the Olympic team. I was working with the U.S. Olympic team for a year, and I got to go as a coach to the Pan Am Games and sailed in Paracas in Peru. And it was a beautiful spot, and they did a great job hosting the event, but it was a cool place to sail. But going back to the fun part, this is what I wanted to say about our U.S. Olympic sailors is, they work incredibly hard, are incredibly disciplined, and put in 250% all the time. But it was impressive to me I was lucky to be one of the 3 coaches there, that they have fun just like we all do, and you can tell when they're not enjoying what they're doing, they're not going to perform as well. And it was cool to kind of help, learn that was part of our job, is to help encourage that fun. And if they had a rough day, it was part of the deal is to help them get through that and get back on board with why they're doing it. You know, they're doing it because they love it and they enjoy it. And it's cool. They got 7 out of 10 classes medaled. And, but I guess I just want to give a shout out to the Olympic team because they are a great bunch of people, great bunch of sailors, and I wish them the best for sure.
Yeah, that's
Plus
awesome.
They get to campaign a whole nother year.
Yeah.
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 Keep
That's
the
another one of
sharpness.
those silver linings almost, you know, that they, and they're making the best of it. And I was just talking to Luther Carpenter, their senior coach yesterday, and they're really going to do a lot of training here in the U.S., which is really what a lot of people want to see. And, you know, it could be, like you said, Judd, a really good opportunity for them.
Yeah, when they postpone the Worlds, so they shift to the J70 Worlds back a year. I think some of my teams that I coach were a little disappointed, but I look at it the other way. I'm like, oh, well, we get to, you know, well, take a deep breath and, you know, make sure we can afford to do this and you know, hope this all passes and everybody survives it well. But on the other side of this, you know, we get to ramp up. We got a whole nother year to preparation and we get to do it all over again. And certainly the Olympic team has got that. In a way, it's an opportunity. I mean, the reality is there's an opportunity for them to even get better, and I'm sure they intend to do that. They're good now, but if anything, it probably helps their chances of medaling next year. If they get a whole nother year to prepare, now we know we spend so much time at the U.S. level trying to be selected. Whereas other countries, it's usually, you know, the person. It's, you know, I know some countries have more than one, but not too often. Maybe a couple like the UK, and, you know, they have more than one that battle out for various spots, and maybe the Netherlands and whatnot, but in Germany, but in a little bit Italy and France. But generally, most of these teams kind of have their guy or girl, and in the US, they're always just battling for the spot, and it's almost like, I have to say, if there's one thing, I don't know what Greg's reaction would be. My reaction would be, this is actually a benefit for the U.S. team, that they actually know who's going and they actually can prepare. They got a full year to prepare these teammates and to build on that and get better. I think that's a good opportunity because you know you're going. Where in the U.S., just to earn that spot is such a milestone that in a way the Olympics, once you've reached that goal of being the one to represent, the Olympics is maybe, you know, it's like a second goal. It's hard to get ramped up for it. I think it'll be a better opportunity to medal. If there's one thing we might look back at this retrospectively, you might say, well, maybe the U.S. trial should be a lot earlier, so the teams that we finally choose in the end to get to go, they actually have more time to prepare, just like you see the Europeans do, because the Europeans are always the same sailors, virtually year after year. It's always the same. They're always going to all the World Cup events and all like that, and they already know they're going, so they already know they're going to show up at the Olympics. So that'll be interesting. I don't know what Greg's thoughts are on that, but that's kind of my impression.
No, I think you're right.
And agrees with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's what Luther said. He was excited about it. And he said they do a number of these webinars, like 2 to 3 a week with all the team. And he said, it's neat how that has built the camaraderie, and the team is even, I guess you'd say, more gelled as a team too. So he's looking at it as an opportunity.
Yeah, it might be an opportunity for the U.S. going forward to say, how can we, you know, as long as sailing stays in the Olympics, how can the U.S. do better in medal-wise? And it's probably just to pick a team sooner, just focus on it. You know, whoever that might be that earns that spot. I mean, every 4 years, it should be I think having that extra year of prep is going to mean a lot to our team going forward. I like their chances more so with a year to spare than even just going in cold turkey in August now. So
right, I agree.
You don't want teams to peak, you know, at the trials, you know. And,
well, it's a big emotional, you know, to prepare to try to win the trials. It's a hard thing to do. There's a lot, you know, there's a lot of regattas. It's a very complex process to qualify the country, and, you know, there's just a lot on. There's a lot on. It's a very emotional and fatiguing, and the fact that they got it done, and now they know who they are. Now they got a whole year they know they're going. The nice thing about doing a world championship is you pretty much know you're going. For the most part, it's not that hard to qualify for Worlds or J70 Worlds. And, it's not that hard to any of these major championships. You kind of know, well, I'm going to go. So you're not trying to qualify per se. And yet on the Olympic level, they have to qualify. And that's a big challenge as a U.S. sailor.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, so Greg, why don't we'll start to wrap up here. But to do that, Greg, why don't you give us kind of what's next for you, or at least what you think is next, obviously. And then, where do you see the next, basically between now and the end of the year, what do you think is going to happen, or what you'd like to see happening?
Well, I'm going to continue coaching where I can and when I can, Ed, and maybe do some more writing if I can, and, just do what I can to stay engaged. And Dave Perry would say he wants to remain relevant, and I just want to kind of stay a part of it all as best I can. And I would love to say that I hope we're able to do some sailing, and at the same time, I also want to say I hope we're wise about how we open life up again, and the Lightning North Americans just were canceled last week, which was a biggie that we were looking forward to. And as I mentioned, the IC37 regattas, a lot of them have been postponed. And I think, unfortunately, that's a lot of what we're going to see. So a lot of what I had on my plate may change, but maybe I'll change, just like Judd's saying, and do some more sailing here, just plain old for fun and with the family, this summer, as that becomes available. So I think you got to kind of look at it as, the opportunity that it provides, and just get through it. And hopefully next fall will be full on, and then we'll really be hungry to get at it, because we haven't been able to do it for a while.
Yeah. Thank you. Judd, what are your thoughts of what's next on your schedule, and then where
it's a real good question. In terms of traveling, the next travel regatta that I would do is scheduled, if it's going to happen, would be Newport Regatta. But in terms of coaching, I'm not, other than doing coaching locally, which I'm happy to do. I mean, we haven't really got access to the water yet, so we're looking forward to that. And I'm happy to, work with our local fleet and do some of the things you discussed. We've done that in the past. Certainly going to be I'd say a boost once we get on the water to local sailing, because people can't travel. So they're going to be home, and they're going to be looking for things to do at home. And like you say, Ed and Greg, to try to get, let's say, the clinic format, nothing else, the fact that the sailing might be a little less formal allows the coaches, a little more coaching, and be on the course where you can certainly, with clinics, help the stragglers usually benefit from the top of the fleet that don't need as much help. But in terms of, there's still some questions about what happens. Will that Newport Regatta, One Design Regatta, I hope it happens in third week in August. And then September, there's still the Etchells North Americans are still scheduled in Shelter Island. We don't know. Hopefully that still happens. Who knows? The J70 North Americans, actually, this is very typical, are scheduled exactly the same weekend. So we have two possible regattas, and they're exactly the same weekend, and neither one have changed, but that's welcome to my world. I think the Star North Americans still pending. They're going to be on the West Coast. Hopefully they can happen. They had to postpone, let's say, the Western hemispheres that were going to be in Centipede in June. They had to postpone those till next year. So most things got slid back a year. But I don't really know. The Etchells Worlds are still up in the air. I'll be surprised if that happens out in Perth. I don't think we'd probably do that at this stage if that was to happen. And I think it would be more like the Star Worlds are in Miami, still scheduled for November, and that's still up in the air. But they haven't said no yet, and they just play it as they can. I know the class and the organizers are trying to see if they can do it. I think a star boat is pretty well suited, and it's really 2 people in a boat. I mean, it's a good boat for social distancing. I mean, so to speak. You're really not, other than upwind. You know, you got one guy low, one guy high. I mean, a downwind, you're nowhere near the helmsman's, nowhere near the crew. It's a pretty social distance boat. I would say the Star should do fine. I hope they can run Star regattas. I hope they have the Star Worlds, as I'm sure all the competitors do, in Miami. And that was already Worlds that was postponed from Nassau, or let's say the venue changed because more boats can participate in Miami. And of course, like the J70 sailing, I guess, Ed, you'd always know more about the schedule than I do, but you know, the Miami thing, I mean, the Florida thing will heat up, and wherever the midwinters are going to be, I guess they might be at St. Pete or Davis Island this year, I guess I'm hearing. And Davis Island. So, and maybe a little less in Miami this year, but Davis Island, they do a nice job running races there, and trying to gear up for Marina del Rey Worlds next year with my teams. And we got lots of opportunities. So we'll do mostly the circuit of events that we can do. I think the J70 North Americans are next, are in down in Annapolis, right? Next
Annapolis
May.
next May.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's one that a lot of people will do. So there's a lot coming, but most of it doesn't get going till, as Greg says, like the end of the summer or into September, which is fine. But in the meantime, it's going to be a good boost for local sailing. And certainly our local sailing could use a little bit of a boost once we figure out how we can do it. So I think it'll be good. I mean, people can't travel. So, you know, we end up with so many distractions in the summer that, you know, being kind of stuck at home, if you will, for the summer wouldn't, for at least for the first half of the summer, wouldn't be the worst thing. And certainly I end up usually going to Chicago and all these other places, and I won't be this year. And I would say that would be unusual. So, you know, I'll be a little bit more of a home gamer and hope we can get some of these other things going.
Yeah, I think that's good. Greg, do you want to just maybe do a wrap up? You know, let people know some things that maybe make sense for them to be doing while they're waiting around, and little coaching tips or something like that, and just anything else you want to add.
Well, Ed, I think these things that you do are great, and I guess what I'd say is it is these kind of, you know, webinars that really provide a lot of opportunity for people, you know, not only to learn, but just to be engaged and you know, get to know, you know, the sailors and the coaches and some of the better sailors at the top end of the sport, like Judd, just to get to know them better and know the kind of people that they are. I think this is a great opportunity to get to know more about our sport, and that's part of the learning. So I think this is super, and you know, in some ways one might argue there is that silver lining, and it provides a time for us first to make sure our equipment's perfect, right? Our yard, our equipment, everything's in great shape, but to get to know our people and just learn where we can and pay attention to what webinars are going on and jump on them, you know. But thanks for having me. I appreciate it, Ed.
No problem. Judd, do you have any last comments?
I look back at what do we have to learn? And I look back at when I was younger. I remember going with Curtis down to a Soling Olympic training regatta in Miami. I don't even remember what it was. It was somewhere, but it was over in Biscayne Bay. And I'm talking about 30, 40 years ago. But at that time, Buddy Melges was not only sailing, but he also ran a clinic there. And I think he did it kind of hand in hand with like Peter Eisler, and Peter was somehow, you know, involved. I don't really remember exactly, but I do remember Buddy Melges, you know, it stuck with me. You know, it was probably 40 years ago, at least. Curtis will remember the day, and he'll remember every race and every leg of every race when I ask him. So I'll ask him about it again. But I remember Buddy doing that clinic. And one thing that stuck with me in that clinic is he was out there one day trying to teach us how to roll tack. Us, you know, I was crewing. All of us, not just us individually, but the fleet. And he came in and he said, you know, he's kind of, you know, Buddy was good because he's kind of a tough guy, kind of like a football coach guy. So he was kind of made a little bit fun of us. He says, what is it to deal with you guys, you know, with the roll tacking? And you know, you're just not doing it right. Are you guys afraid of getting wet? What's the problem? You know, he kind of went on like that. And that stuck with me. I thought it was friggin' hilarious. And everybody did at the time. And guess what? We got a lot better at roll tacking after that because he kind of, you know, humiliated us into doing it. And after that, I remember the fleet saying, I'm like, fuck, everybody knows how to roll tack now, you know? So, and here, that was 40 years ago. And that still stuck with me as being one of the greatest coaching tips I ever got. So that was you know, I'm sure Buddy wouldn't even remember any of that right now, but he might. I'm sure Curtis would remember. But those are the things that stick with me. So to Greg's point, you do, when you do get to learn from the best of the best, and certainly Buddy was, you know, still at the height of his career then. There's a lot to be learned from the more experienced sailors, and this might be a good venue to share some of those thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, that's my goal was basically kind of what everyone's saying. You know, I've been lucky enough to know you guys, and where I've been lucky enough is because you guys are very approachable, and I want to kind of show off you guys at being approachable people, and that you could come up and talk to anyone can come up and say, hey, you know, can I get some help here or there? And I know you'll offer it. So I just really appreciate your time, and I hope a lot of other people do. And, you know, we look forward to doing more of this, but also creating a better avenue on the water for more people to get to meet you guys and get to learn and become better sailors. So I really appreciate everything you guys are doing for the sport, and I can't wait to see you guys in person. So thanks a lot, guys.
Great. Thanks, Ed. Enjoyed it. Good to see you, Greg.
Good to see you, Judd. Thanks a lot. And Ed, you do a lot for the sport as well. So thank you to you too.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks, guys.
Hey, and Ed, we look forward to hearing about what the J70 plans are coming up. You know, we need something to, we need a goal. We need something to look forward to. So keep us in the loop.
We're trying to, and you know, we'll be working hard, and you know, we're create these venues. If you have any of these, you know, any types of events that we could, you know, be helpful to, just reach out. And you know, we're doing a lot of things, not bouncing things off of you guys. I know you guys are always helpful. So thanks a lot.
Good. Thanks, Ed.
Take care.
Yep.
See you, Judd.
Yeah, see you, Greg.
Bye-bye.